let me ask you a question, especially if you're an atheist watching this.
Oh, that's exactly me, my man. I am, in fact, an atheist who's watching this, although I'm starting to get a little wary whenever I hear, "This is for atheists." Because in my experience, what that really means is, this is a weird straw man of atheism that only really appeals to theists, and is, in fact, not reflective of any atheist ever. Hope you can finally buck the trend after infinity plus infinity times.
Alright, if God were to reveal himself to you personally, like to give you a sign, like real confirmation that he's real, would you worship him?
Well, that is an interesting question. No, wait, the other I word. What I meant was that's an incoherent question. God? What God? Your God? And if you're God, what makes you think he even wants to be worshipped? I mean, just because some books written by guys say that, does not mean that is actually what he wants. Especially seeing as none of you actually agree on anything about him other than he exists fully. Also, how am I supposed to know that's what really happened? If there is a God, that idiot thought it would be a good idea to make it so that it's completely possible, if not likely, that if one thinks they see a supernatural event, what has actually happened is their useless brain has tricked them into seeing such. So not only do I need to see something miraculous, but I'll also need flawless proof that my brain isn't just messing with me. And again, all assuming that he even wants worship. He might just want a chill bro to play some Need for Speed Underground 2 with.
Okay, because if the answer is no, then just click away from this video. Don't even bother watching, dude. Just leave.
Well, I haven't actually said yes or no, because you have given such a vague premise, it is essentially impossible to answer either way. But even if I did say no, why would that mean I don't get to listen to the rest of your screed? Why does that mean I couldn't possibly get any value out of what you have to say? Why, precisely, does that mean I wouldn't have any criticisms? What, just because, and this is a guess but I'm betting I'm right, simply, I as an atheist wouldn't do what you think I should? I mean, seriously, dude, not everyone has to agree with you. You know that, right?
If you are too prideful to submit to a God that personally reveals himself to you, then you're not going to connect with anything I say in this video. So seriously, like, just click away.
Why does it matter if I connect? I mean, it's great if you can connect, but you don't have to have some deep-rooted bond in order to be able to understand someone's position, or even hear something that you haven't heard before, and most importantly for you, potentially be convinced by it. Such a strange thing that I have heard more than one theist do. If you don't agree on X, then you should stop watching the video. Because I just cannot imagine holding that position. If anything, I want people who don't already agree with me to listen to what I have to say. Because if they didn't, there's a solid chance they might never hear anything like it. And that would be a sad thing. Also, the reverse is true. And I think possibly the reason that you don't actually want people to disagree with your premise and then watch. They might have something to say that would change your mind, and I think that probably scares you at least a little bit. I mean, I could be wrong, and I honestly hope I am, but I really do not see any other reason to pull this crap other than intellectual laziness.
This was something I asked myself frequently when I was an atheist. If God revealed himself to me personally, would I worship him?
Frequently? That seems a little odd. I mean, once in a while I could get, but what are we talking here? Once a year? Once a month? Once a week? Every day? And you know what? Even once a year feels like a bit much, unless you simply don't know the answer. Because surely if you do know what you're going to answer, why would you constantly need to bring it up? Yes or no, the reasoning for that is unlikely to change all that much, all that often. Well, to be fair, I could think of one reason, yay or nay, you would constantly ask as an atheist, but we will get to that.
Without a shadow of a doubt, if I knew God was real, would I submit and worship him? And the answer was yes.
Yeah, I figured as much, but again, no matter what your reasoning is for that, why do you think if I don't think that I should go away? As if I had followed your instructions and already clicked away, well, now I wouldn't benefit from hearing your reasoning. You see how counterproductive it is to just shoo people away before you've even said anything. It's a really dumb way to make arguments. And here's a trick. Even if I'm right and you're doing this out of a misguided fear of changing your opinion, you could just do what most theists seem to do and completely ignore what the solid arguments say and pretend they don't even exist. I mean, why else do the same people make the same terrible points over and over and over again if they're actually bothering to pay attention? Of course they aren't.
Okay, because if in that case, I'm a creation. I'm obligated to submit to my creator.
Well, that doesn't make a lick of sense for a number of reasons. First off, what, are humans supposed to be like machines built to only do precisely as the designer expects from them and nothing else? I mean, I guess that could be one thing if humans literally could not do much, if anything else. Because think about it, if you build a robot for flicking a light switch that wasn't capable of anything but doing that one singular task, then it not flicking the light switch is a problem. But if you take that same robot and make it think and feel and be able to move away from the switch and give it the ability to dream and come up with creative things to do with its time, maybe even the ability to find happiness outside of flicking the switch, which, by the way, is a switch that doesn't even do anything as far as anyone could tell, especially the robot, suddenly expecting it to do that and nothing else does not sound particularly reasonable. And second, being the result of an intentional creation doesn't mean that you owe that creator dick all. I mean, even if you like your life, you didn't actually ask for it. So to be demanded that you worship your parents, say, just because they decided to force you to exist, it's a tad weird. And don't even get me started on if your life actually sucks. Can you imagine if your parents birthed you directly into a pit of barbed wire, lemon juice and salt, and then expected you to thank them for doing so? That's psychotic!
Like, what power do I have over not doing what the creator of the universe tells me to do? Who am I to, like, object to what God himself wants me to do?
Well, you see, apparently he gave you the ability to not do that. So forget all the many book those and really think about this. If there is a God and there's a thing that the guy wants, shouldn't it be obvious? Wouldn't he make it clear by using this amazing creation to make you feel certain ways and want certain things? In a hypothetical universe with a real God that looks just like this one, I can maybe see that God might want me to have friends, because having friends is nice. I could see that God might not want me to commit violence, because that shit feels really bad. I could even see that God might want me to take care of the world he created, because damn if it isn't pretty. But I tell you what he never seemed to bother embedding in the place that he allegedly created for you and I. The constant desire to tell him how cool he is all the goddamn time. In fact, it would appear to me that might be the last thing he wants, because he's made it so hard to know where he is and tell him. It's as if the guy doesn't exist at all.
Essentially, that was my mindset, even when I was an atheist, even before I believed in God. So, big question, why was I an atheist? I was an atheist for 8 years.
Wow, that was an absolute roller coaster. Because, and forgive me if I'm wrong, I am in my 40s now, so everyone under the age of 30 looks like a bloody child to me. But I'm pretty sure you aren't currently 8 years old. And if you are, there definitely is not a God, because damn, you look terrible for your age. So assuming the more logical conclusion that this is an adult man, who is in fact an adult man, that means there definitely was a time before you were an atheist, which means there wasn't a time before you believed in God. There was a time when you stopped believing in God, and that's at best. Because so far from the sounds of it, what you really are is a classic I was an atheist, but really I was just mad at God kind of atheist, which is further suggested more strongly by the fact that you constantly had to ask yourself questions about what you would do if God am real. Again, it's the kind of thing that were you to actually not believe, you would have figured out your answer and then probably just moved on with your life, only readdressing it with some drastic changes in your beliefs.
Before that, I was a Mormon, and I grew up around religious hypocrisy my entire life, dude. Constantly, people around me not practicing what they preach, judging others, self-righteousness, Like, all of it, dude.
Yeah, so while I'm really sorry to hear that, shitty people are indeed shit, it also completely aligns with the mad at God theist thing over being an actual atheist. Because when I first started talking about atheism, there was something really weird that happened to me a number of times. And it still happens to me to this day. And it confused the shit out of me for a while. So I would get into a heated discussion with a theist, or refute one and their argument somewhere, and then out of the blue, someone would tell me what essentially boiled down to, I'm sorry someone religious was mean to you. And it was like, no, dumbass, I don't believe in God because I don't see it. Yeah, religious hypocrisy exists, and people use religion to be shitty to people all the time. But that ain't why I'm an atheist. I'm an atheist because I found the God man's idea interesting and believed it when I was a little baby sick. But eventually, I realized that there wasn't a good reason for me to believe, and I started to figure out what I actually thought and why, and eventually sprouted into a beautiful atheist butterfly. There was frankly almost no emotion involved in it. I wasn't mad or upset or even happy about it. It was all just mostly curiosity and possibly confused why God didn't seem to ever do anything, which became far less confusing when I realized he probably doesn't real.
No one in my family practiced what they preached. None of my friends did. Nobody, no one, I knew no one. No one lived up to the standard, dude. Everybody would just judge you for not living up to the standard while they themselves could not live up to the standard of their own religion.
I do not blame you for being pissed, but again, that shouldn't be the reason why you were an atheist. And I would argue it's not the reason why most atheists are atheists. Not exclusively anyway, because while spotting religious hypocrisy can be a good starting point for beginning to question certain things, if you don't go beyond, I don't believe this because the people that do are assholes, it is no wonder that you've gone back to Godding. And I would argue that for all intents and purposes, you never did. And that if you ever decide that religion isn't for you again, well, I would really like it if you try something for me, since we are now new best friends. Deconstruct. Figure out what you actually believe and what you don't. And you may well discover that you find the God idea convincing, but make sure that's truly what you genuinely believe and know why. And also, you do know that you can not do religion and still believe in some kind of personal God, or even an impersonal God. You will just simply have to accept that you probably don't know what he actually wants, and likely no one knows, and that will be fine, so long as that is actually what you're thinking, mate.
Literally, none of it seemed genuine. None of the Mormonism around me seemed genuine. People would say one thing and then do the exact opposite. Literally, nobody had answers for me for like the deeper questions of what the meaning of life is. No one could answer me, dude.
I'll be honest, I find that quite hard to believe. Not the first part, obviously. The fact that many theists don't practice what they preach is so common that they should come up with some sort of cliched phrase for it. Unfortunately, I can't think of one off the top of my head. But anyway, the second one, I don't know, man. That seems so unusual. I fear that you just weren't paying attention. Or maybe you mean that the answers they gave were incredibly unsatisfying, because that tends to be what they are. But the notion that they were not constantly telling you what you were supposed to be doing with your life and why, well, your own words seem to contradict that. Just because they didn't seem to believe it doesn't mean they weren't telling you what life is about and how to live it. It's just that, well, as you said, they're obviously full of shit.
Like, none of it made sense. I grew up so confused. People spouting all these religious teachings that they themselves don't even follow. Like, I knew deep down that there was this, that right and wrong, it really is black and white. I knew that deep down. Like, it's not this mushy gray area of moral ambiguity that everybody seems to express through their actions in this culture.
I'm sorry to tell you this, mate, even though it's completely unsurprising considering what you have already said so far, but black and white thinking is a symptom of a lack of critical thinking, which seems to have fed into this flip-flopping between belief systems, instead of actually sitting down and figuring out what you truly believe. And hell, if you do truly think that there is a rigid right and wrong, damn did you ever pick the wrong religion to go with, since Yahweh himself is constantly going back and forth on what he thinks is and isn't okay. No wonder you were, and as far as I can tell, continue to be, confused. Life is, as far as anyone can tell, kind of messy. And the idea that there's almost anything that is always the right thing to do in any given situation is wild. I mean, there are definitely some things everyone could conceivably agree to, but the idea that it even could be everything is simply naive.
And then on top of that, in my teen years, I started getting bullied by people that I went to church with. And it got really bad, dude. So I straight up, that was like one of the turning points where I decided, like, why would God's true church, because that's what the Mormon church says, that they're the only true church. Same with every other, like, organized religion out there. They're the only true church. I asked myself, like, why would God's only true church treat me like such garbage?
Yeah, screw those bullies. The fact that they did that in a place that's supposed to be safe, but essentially one that you couldn't really leave, is so f***ed up. And I can understand why you questioned how the one true church could allow that to happen, and that you didn't backslide into that place. I am genuinely really proud of you for that. It is not as easy as people think to avoid ending back in abusive situations, especially when family and friends are involved. So I fully respect the hustle. And of course, they think they am the one real church of amazingness, but to be fair, they literally all do that. So that's not super surprising. Even the faith that you hold now probably has strong feelings towards how right it is. But again, these should not be reasons to believe or disbelieve in God. It should be the fact that, well, as far as I can tell, the guy doesn't exist. That's a good reason to disbelieve. And if you genuinely think he's real, that's a pretty reasonable reason to believe. I still think you're wrong, but at the very least, I can't refute your brain.
So I did my research on the prophets, and lo and behold, Joseph Smith was a complete freak and a con man. Like, without a shadow of a doubt, like, the entire Mormon religion is a sham.
Not gonna lie, no notes on that specifically. And again, good for you on not only recognizing that problem, but accepting it and distancing yourself from something that is clearly counterfactual. It shows that you can do it. The problem obviously arises when there's less obvious direct evidence of deception. It is a lot harder to prove that the ancient guys from forever ago were definitely just making shit up, because, of course, surrounding history is not as solid as it was a few dozens or hundreds or whatever years ago. But that doesn't mean that it's not all nonsense. You have to remember that if someone tells you, and then a miracle happened, it is more than okay to doubt that. If there is no evidence, especially recently, of any miracles happening and no modern ones, do not count if there is a more plausible, rational, naturalistic explanation. Quite the opposite, actually.
So when I discovered that, then my mindset was like, well, if Mormonism isn't true, and they claim to be the only true religion out there, then every other religion out there must not be true, because they also claim the exact same thing. And that was when I became an atheist.
Okay, again, a fair conclusion on the religious front, but you skipped a step. Atheist doesn't mean thinks religions are bullshit. I mean, it's not an uncommon connection to make, but here's the thing. You can be irreligious and believe in God. And also, you can hold a religion that doesn't have any kind of deity, making you an actually religious atheist. Although, let's be clear, that is completely different from the stupid "did you know atheism is a religion" talking point that morons make. Seriously, that is as easily debunked as asking which religion is theism to any theist out there who has ever done the bit. If you understand why that's a stupid question, then you need to stop calling atheism a religion. Cheers.
And when I turned to atheism, it wasn't out of like, yeah, I found the meaning of life, like atheism, let's get it. It's more like, well, this is it, I guess. More out of complacency. It wasn't like a happy realization. It was depressing.
Yeah, the thing is, you refuted religions in your mind, but not the concept of God. You just assumed that the not religious thing is strictly atheistic. So it seems God had to go out with it. And again, I get it. And I do think it's a likely endpoint for a lot of people, but many of them, myself included, didn't skip it. When I stopped being religious, I still believed in a God concept for a decent while, before eventually breaking away after learning about how the world actually works and accepting that. I just no longer had a good reason to believe in something I couldn't justify. I think skipping straight to "I don't believe in God" isn't all that helpful a lot of the time.
Okay, and let me tell you, true atheism is nihilism, okay? If you believe there's no God, then there's basically no meaning to anything. Morals are not objective. They're just made up by whatever culture you're in and whatever, like, the common mindset is of what is actually morally good. And you're only doing things basically out of survival instinct to guarantee your survival. So you're only following man in that case.
See, unfortunately, this is how I know you definitely didn't spend much time thinking or really learning about what it means to be an atheist or what your positions truly were. Or that, in fact, you never stopped believing most of the things you did before, because no. True atheism is not just nihilism. Atheism exists in an incredibly diverse set of worldviews, not just a single one. And in fact, atheists can believe in objective morality and can and do often hold values that are more than simply following man because survival. And I think if you genuinely wanted to know more about what life can be without the need for God, you would already know that. But I don't think you did. I think you were angry, and rightly so, at the people around you who lied to you, but never moved past that anger into true understanding. And now you have found a different set of lies that just happen to be spouted by a slightly nicer set of people. And if that's enough for you, okay, great, but it doesn't mean that you ever truly understood atheism or theism. Anyway, take care, man. Keep up the Spider-Man motif. It makes you a million times more interesting and earnest than the vast majority of theists on this platform.